On December 6, 1991, four teenage girls, one yogurt shop, a fire that will reveal something far worse than anyone could imagine. For 34 years, this case haunted Austin, Texas. Four men were arrested, convicted, and then freed when DNA proved they were innocent. The real killer, he was hiding in plain sight the whole time. And in September 2025, investigators finally announced they know exactly who did it. This is the story of the Texas yogurt shop case and how one victim's final moment of resistance solved everything. Austin, Texas in 1991 was a growing city, and the yogurt shop incident became a defining moment that many say caused the city to lose its innocence. It was the kind of place where people still felt safe, where teenagers could work late shift at the mall without their parents worrying too much. That sense of security gone in one night. The shop was located in 2949 West Anderson Lane in North Austin. It was a busy shopping area, lots of foot traffic, families, and teenagers hanging out after school. On that Friday night, four girls were there, 17-year-old Jennifer Harbison and 17-year-old Elisa Thomas, who both work at the shop. Jennifer's younger sister, 15-year-old Sarah Harbison, and their friend, 13-year-old Amy Ayers. Sarah and Amy had stopped by to catch a ride home with Jennifer when the shop closed at 11 p.m. Just four normal teenage girls doing what teenagers do, and they had no idea what was about to happen. Here's what we know what happened that night. Around closing time on December 6, 1991, someone entered or remained in the store until closing, possibly through the back door which investigators believe may have been jammed open. Shortly before midnight, an Austin Police Patrol officer noticed fire coming from the yogurt shop and reported it to dispatch. City of Austin firefighters rushed to the scene and they extinguished the flames. And then they found them. All four girls were found in the back of the shop. They had been bound with their own clothing, gagged with cloth, and shot in the head. The fire had been deliberately set, likely to destroy evidence. The crime scene was devastating. The autopsy report shows small details that made the tragedy even more real. Amy wore small white earrings, Sarah had a gold necklace and Mickey Mouse watch, Jennifer wore her high school ring and a Timex watch. These were just kids. The entire city was left in shock. This wasn't supposed to happen in Austin. So obviously, police launched a massive investigation immediately. The Austin Police Department created a task force dedicated solely to solving the case. The FBI was brought into assist. But here's the problem. The fire had destroyed so much evidence, and the water used to put out the fire that damaged even more. Investigators were working with fragments, but still they collected DNA evidence from the crime scene. Remember, this is 1991, DNA technology was relatively new. They couldn't do half the things we can do today. 4 years, the case went cold. Then in 1990, 8 years later, investigators made arrests. 4 men were charged: Maurice Pierce, Robert Springsteen, Michael Scott, and Forrest Welburn. They were teenagers at the time of the incident. Maurice Pierce had been arrested just 8 days after the crime for carrying .22 caliber gun at the nearby mall, the same type used in the attack. Under intense interrogation, he confessed and implicated the other 3. Robert Springsteen and Michael Scott were convicted based on their confessions. Even though they later said those confessions were coerced, Springsteen was sentenced to death and Scott got life without parole. For a brief moment, Austin thought the case was closed, but something wasn't right. Detective John Jones, one of the original investigators, never signed off the confessions. He kept asking where is the evidence and where is the DNA. And he was right to be skeptical. In the mid-2000s, the convictions were overturned. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals ruled that the prosecutors had violated the confrontation clause by using the defendants' confessions against each other without allowing cross-examination. Then came the bombshell. In preparation for retrials, the Travis County District Attorney Office used the new YSTR DNA testing technology. The results excluded all 4 suspects. The DNA found at the crime scene didn't match any of them. In 2009, all charges were dropped. 4 men had spent years in prison, one on death row for a crime they didn't commit. The real killer was still out there, and the case went cold again. So, who actually did this? Let me tell you about Robert Eugene Brazzers. Brazzers was born in March 13, 1958 in Newport News, Virginia. He was described as intelligent and manipulative, good with tools and weapons. His violent criminal history began in 1985 in Port St. Lucie, Florida, where he lured a woman named Michelle Wilkerson into his car and shot her in the head and neck. She survived and identified him. He was convicted and sentenced to 12 years, but was released in 1989 after serving only 3 years. 3 years for attempted ending someone's life. After his release, Brazzers went on what can only be described as multi-state crime spree. In 1990, he attacked and ended the life of 20-year-old Genevieve Zitricki in Greenville, South Carolina. In 1997, he committed a violent crime against a 14-year-old girl in Memphis, Tennessee. His patterns was always the same. He tied victims with their own clothing, carried multiple weapons, and always worked alone. On January 1999, during a police standoff in Kennett, Missouri, Brazzers ended his own life with a gunshot. For years, nobody connected him to the yogurt shop incident. He died before anyone even suspected him. Now, here is where it gets really interesting and where modern science changes everything. Genealogist C.C. Moore identified Robert Eugene Brazzers as a suspect. In 2018, Brazzers' body was exhumed from a cemetery in Paragould, Arkansas. DNA was extracted from his bone and tested. The DNA matches evidence from multiple incidents across multiple states. But not yet the yogurt shop. Fast forward to 2022, Detective Dan Jackson took over Austin Unsolved Homicide Unit. On his first day, his supervisor told him, "Solve the yogurt shop case." Jackson spent 3 years methodically reviewing every piece of evidence. In June 2025, Jackson resubmitted a bullet casing, a .380 caliber shell found in the floor drain at the yogurt shop, to the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network. It matched the ballistics were consistent with the gun Brazzers used to end his own life in 1999. But Jackson needed more. In August 2025, Jackson made the risky decision to test DNA found under Amy Ayers' fingernails. It was a small sample and testing would consume it, meaning if it didn't work, the evidence will be gone forever. "This is it," Jackson said. "We are gonna push our chips. We are going all in." And when the test came back, it was a 2.5 million to 1 match. Robert Eugene Brazzers' DNA was under Amy's fingernail. Amy had fought back. She had scratched her attacker. And 34 years later, that brave act solved the case. Detective Jackson said it best, "Amy's final moment on this earth were to solve this case for us." On September 2025, Austin police officially announced that Robert Eugene Brazzers had been identified as the perpetrator of the yogurt shop incident. The press conference was emotional. Bob Ayers, Amy's father, placed a "We will not forget" pin on Detective Jackson's jacket. Sonora Thomas, Elisa's sister, said, "I thought I would die not knowing what happened and had to come to terms with that. But now I know what happened, and that thus is my suffering." Think about that for a second. These families have lived with this for 34 years. Birthdays, holidays, weddings, and graduations, all without their daughters and sisters, all without answers. Even Brazzers' own daughters, Deborah Brazzers, spoke out. She was just an infant when the Austin crime happened, and only 8 years old when her father died. She said, "I am very sorry to every family that my father hurt." Imagine carrying that burden. So, what do we take away from this? First, false confessions are real. For innocent men spent years in prison because investigators were so desperate for answers that they accepted confession that didn't match the evidence. Detective Jones was right to demand physical proof. Second, technology matters. The DNA that exonerated those 4 men in 2009 couldn't have been tested in 1991. The genetic genealogy that identified Brazzers in 2018 didn't even exist when he died in 1999. And finally, Amy Ayers fought back. in her final moment, he scratched her attacker, and that act of resistance ultimately brought justice not just for her, but for Jennifer, Sarah, and Eliza. The case remains technically open as investigators continue to analyze evidence and look for any possible connection to other crimes Bracers may have committed. But for the families, they finally have the answers. If you found this video informative, hit that like button, subscribe if you want more deep dives into true crime and dark history, and share this with someone who might be interested in this case. There are so many more stories like this, case that seem unsolvable but finally getting closer thanks to the new technology. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!